What's up, everybody? It is a very foggy Friday morning here in San Francisco, and we are about to have a look at the parade of ships for San Francisco Fleet Week, or at least the parts of it that we can see. If you take a look way off here in the fog, you can just barely make out the San Francisco fireboat, the St. Francis, giving a warm, watery welcome to the 4 Navy ships that are going to be in the parade today. Of course, there it is right there, emerging from the fog. I believe we can just barely make it out. The St. Francis, San Francisco's newest fireboat. And as we zoom out here, we can see a line of fog stretching over the Marin Hills and the Golden Gate Bridge. If you can hear potentially in the background, you might be able to hear the St. Francis Yacht Club having their own presentation here, and of course this line of pelicans here also to greet the sailors as they arrive in San Francisco Bay. We're hearing all sorts of horns today. We were hearing them even before dawn as these ships made their way outside the Golden Gate to get ready for the parade of ships. It has been a long day already for these sailors. Their ships arrived in town earlier this week. There is the San Francisco fireboat. Their ships arrived in town earlier this week. They exited the Golden Gate just before sunrise. And in the background, you may be able to hear the national anthem. And there they are emerging from the fog. Applause here on the shore for the national anthem. There again, the fireboat, and directly behind it, you see that number 59 there on the bow. That is the USS Princeton, I believe, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser that was commissioned in February 1989 and actually took part in Operation Desert Storm. Ordinarily, it carries a pair of Seahawk helicopters. It's 567 feet long. It's based in San Diego. This ship actually took some serious damage from mines during Operation Desert Storm. A Canadian destroyer came to its aid. The Canadians, of course, they rendered emergency aid to the ship, but they also brought the sailors some beer, because at the time there was no beer on U.S. Navy ships, but there was on Canadian Navy ships. The ship has had a lot of history. It's also been involved in a hostage rescue from pirates, even once tracked a UFO. The soldiers who were involved in that mine strike, by the way, they all received the Combat Action Ribbon when they got back to the U.S. USS Princeton here at San Francisco Fleet Week, leading off the parade of ships right behind the fireboat, the St. Francis. Wow, look at that, creating a little bit of a rainbow there. the USS Princeton against the backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge. At least the tiny bit of it that we can see. Maybe some sailors over there on deck. If we can zoom in, there they are, manning the rails of the USS Princeton. Visiting us here in San Francisco from its home port of San Diego. What is behind the USS Princeton? Let's move over here and see if we can see any markings on this ship. We hear its horn. Background, we hear the foghorns of the Golden Gate Bridge. Once again, here we see the sailors up on the deck. There should be 4 ships in the parade today. As this ship comes into focus, this appears to be the USS Harpers Ferry, which is a landing dock ship, LSD 69. This is actually the lead ship in her class, which means that any other ship that's like this one that comes after it is called a Harpers Ferry class landing dock ship. You can see all those many crew up there on the deck, a lot of crew on this ship. Commissioned in January 1995. It is based in San Diego, but it spent almost a decade in Japan. It's 610 feet long. It doesn't go that fast, 20 knots, but the little ships, the little boats that it can deploy, those go very fast. And that is what this ship is all about. It has a well deck where landing craft can dock and load and unload even in rough seas. It can send things to shore. Can send Marines to shore, can even send an M1 Abrams tank to shore on those landing craft that it holds there in its well deck. It typically carries 2 of those hovercraft. The Navy's in the process of getting a new design for those that can go even faster. And there's also a helicopter landing deck up top, as you can see. And last year at Fleet Week, some elementary school students were actually allowed to go up and tour the deck of that ship with some tanks and helicopters on it. The USS Harpers Ferry is based in San Diego. It's actually been involved in a lot of humanitarian aid missions, both after the tsunami and earthquake in Japan, and also after the typhoon that hit the Philippines in 2009. You can see the sailors there manning the rails of LSD 49, the USS Harpers Ferry. the third ship in the parade, and this ship has an unmistakable shape. Without even looking at the numbers on the ship, you can tell this is the USS Kansas City LCS 22. It's a littoral combat ship. It has that trimaran hull, which half of the littoral combat ships do. In fact, all the ones with even numbers have that trimaran hull. I've been on a couple of these, including the USS Manchester. They are both the smallest and the fastest ships that you'll see here during Fleet Week. Made entirely of aluminum, so there's a lot of fireproofing on board because of that. Because they're made of aluminum, the interior doesn't have to be painted, so you'll see a lot of exposed aluminum. These are considered the Swiss Army knife of Navy ships. They have a big open mission bay in the back of the ship where mission packages can be loaded and unloaded. They can be used for minesweeping. They can be used for anti-pirate activity, and they can be used to guard aircraft carriers, among other things. Sailors say that the littoral combat ships they're not only the most enjoyable ships to drive as a ship's pilot, they're also a place where a relatively new sailor can learn a lot because there are so few people on board. This has the smallest crew of any of the ships you'll see today. People who are on board get to do a lot of different jobs. The firefighters get to do all different kinds of firefighting. People get to really sort of punch above their weight class, if you will, in the responsibilities they get to take on a small ship like this. Take one more look at the sailors up there manning the rails of the USS Kansas City. Here as the fireboat, the St. Francis, disappears off into the bay. And as the ships make their way past Alcatraz. Alcatraz right there. A relatively small island that looks even smaller. You put it next to ships that look like this. There is that well deck there underneath that loading dock ship. One more look here at the USS Kansas City. finally, there is one more ship, one more naval ship in our parade. You can see the bay already starting to reopen to traffic behind it. This one is the USS Fitzgerald Ddg 52. Ddg is a destroyer. It's an Arleigh Burke class destroyer. As a matter of fact, it was commissioned in 1995, also based in San Diego. It's 505 feet long, travels up to 30 knots, or at least 30 knots that the U.S. Navy is willing to admit to. Often these ships have capabilities that far exceed their official specifications. This ship also helped with humanitarian relief efforts in Japan following the tsunami and earthquake that were so devastating that struck there in 2011. In 2017, this ship was actually involved in a deadly collision with a container ship. It cost 7 crew members their lives. The ship returned to active service after years of repair in 2020. So this ship is now back in active service, based out of the port of San Diego. It carries about 280 crew members. Some of them you can see up there on deck manning the rails. This ship has a nickname, as some of them do. It's called Fightin' Fitz, or Fighting Fitz, the USS Fitzgerald. Back over here and have a look at the Golden Gate Bridge, where the fog is clearing. Not in time for the parade, but it's clearing now. Fog shows up for the parade. It may want to show up for the air show. There's certainly people who are hoping that it doesn't. Back over here and take a look at the head of the parade as we can see it moving its way on into the bay. There once again the USS Princeton leading off the parade right behind the Fireboat 3, the St. Francis. There again, the USS Harpers Ferry, the loading dock ship with that very distinctive shape, tall in the front, low and flat in the back. The USS Kansas City. Small, fast aluminum ship. There you can see that 3-hull design, that triple hull design. That thing on top is a helicopter hangar. The entire ship, including the flight deck, made of aluminum. you could try to land a jet on that ship, as one of the deck officers once said to me, you could do that one time. There would not be a landing deck to land on anymore after that. And finally, the USS Fitzgerald, Fighting Fitz. I believe that is a U.S. Coast Guard boat patrolling the parade route in front of it. Of course, this is actually just the middle of the Fleet Week festivities. Today, the Blue Angels will attempt the first of 3 air shows, and there are plenty of jet demonstration teams and propeller-driven planes, and even I believe a rescue demonstration that take place ahead of the Blue Angels. They're just the headliner. There are plenty of other spectacles in the air to take place before they take to the skies. And of course, the entire humanitarian assistance village that is on display at the Marina Green here in San Francisco. And there you can see spectators there on the rocks by the wave organ surrounding the yacht harbor, the Marina Yacht Harbor, greeting those ships as they come into San Francisco Bay. Hearing the foghorns again. The Golden Gate Bridge is once again swallowed up in fog. So it looks like the fog cleared for just a moment to let these ships pass through. And as if to herald the arrival of the U.S. Navy, there again, a flock of pelicans over the bay. Let's see what we have here. Sure what that is. What a sight it is. Big ships, many of them with a lot of history, and all of those people out there to watch them. Behind the ships, the bay is now once again open to regular boat traffic. You can see the Coast Guard patrolling. Alcatraz with Coast Guard and somebody's sailboat crossing in front of it. Back over here, you can see the USS Kansas City crossing in front of those spectators out there on the rocks by the Marina Green. Program next door to us at the Yacht Club appears to have wrapped up. Sounds like they're going to have some delicious lunch ahead of them. Unfortunately, we have not yet come up with the technology to send you lunch via live stream. If we did, it would probably spawn a whole new industry of remote restaurants. Best one can do right now is order delivery, I think. Go take one more look at the Golden Gate Bridge, where the foghorns have begun sounding again. See it indeed is nearly completely swallowed up in fog. Fog interfere with the air show? That is now the question. It's a question that I'm sure our meteorologists are working diligently to answer. fog is very difficult to forecast. I have no doubt if anyone can, our meteorologists can handle that task. So for now, we will say goodbye from the San Francisco Parade of Ships and watch this space. There may be some more content from Fleet Week throughout the weekend, especially if you follow me on Twitter at Bloom TV. Try to post some more tweets on the picturesque happenings throughout the week.